News Radio 102.9 KARN. First News, Kevin Miller, joined by Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning to you, sir. How are you doing today?
Hey, Kevin. Good morning to you.
Thank you for being on. The president making a run to El Paso last night to talk about the wall. He talked about border security and many more things, too. You've got a bipartisan group of negotiators that have come to an agreement in principle about border security, and they're working to try to avert a government shutdown. I'm going to get your take on what's happening.
Yeah, Kevin, my principle is that I always read the text that comes out of agreements in principle. It was reached late last night, and I don't think that entire committee has signed off on the agreement that those committee leaders reached, and it certainly hasn't been reduced to legislative text. And as Arkansans know, I always have to read the legislative text before I commit to vote on a bill. Immigration is a issue that is very complicated, in which the devil is very much in the details. So I hope that we provide the President and Department of Homeland Security the money and the flexibility they need to build barriers where it's appropriate based on our Border Patrol's professional judgment. I also hope that we don't take steps backwards, like reducing the number of detention facilities that we have for holding and ultimately deporting illegal aliens, or loosening up even more the rules for granting asylum or refugee status in this country. I expect in the coming 2 to 3 days I'll be able to evaluate that bill and take a look at it, but those are some of the things I'll be looking at.
Senator Tom Cotton, News Radio 102.9 KARN. What is the process here? A little civics lesson, if you would. As the agreement comes out, it becomes legislation. How does that all work?
Yeah, so the spending bill that we currently are operating under ends on Friday. This conference committee, both parties, both houses, will need to reduce that bill to text. They need a majority of each House's members to then take it to the floor, both the House and the Senate. Because it's what's called a conference committee report of legislation that had previously passed, there won't be an opportunity to amend it, so it's kind of take it or leave it. If we don't pass that by midnight on Friday night, then we would either have another partial government shutdown, or my preference would obviously be a short-term spending bill so we can continue the debate.
Senator Tom Cotton, News Radio 102.9 KARN. Any prediction? Government shutdown, is that going to happen or not?
I don't think so, Kevin. I wouldn't want to see another one. I didn't want to see the last one, but also I'm not willing to vote for a spending bill that contains a lot of bad measures that make it harder to secure our border and harder to arrest and deport the illegal aliens that we have in this country who are a threat to public safety. If it comes to that, the better alternative, in my opinion, is a shorter-term spending bill that would allow those negotiations to continue. Again, because they've only reached an agreement in principle between a handful of committee leaders, it's hard for me to evaluate the merits of that bill yet.
Kevin Miller with Senator Tom Cotton, News Radio 102.9 KARN. We continue to see these migrants that are coming up from South America and the countries there and moving through Mexico. There was a report late last week that it may have been the Mexican government, I don't think it was confirmed, who picked up 49 buses, and brought migrants just to the south of the U.S. border. They're being held in Mexico. I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I haven't seen those reports yet, Kevin. I do know that Secretary Pompeo and Secretary Nielsen at the Department of Homeland Security reached an agreement a couple months ago with Mexico to keep Central American migrants in their country as opposed to facilitating their passage to our country. What would be even better if those migrants stay in their country as opposed to crossing the Mexico southern border, and then they apply for immigration status in their countries in an orderly fashion according to our laws. That's what should be done. I understand that Central America has some poor and dangerous countries, but poverty and crime is not grounds for refugee status in our country. But this has become a real shift in the kind of illegal immigration we face on our border, Kevin, because you have so many people who are taking advantage of America's generosity, because the laws were written for another kinds of immigrants showing up on our border. What you now have are people showing up with children on the border, sometimes not even their own children, claiming refugee status, and the administration's hands are really tied. If they don't have enough detention facility space, then they have to let those people go, and there's as you can imagine, extremely low rate of appearance when it comes time for their trial, sometimes years in the future.
All right, we'll continue to follow. Senator Tom Cotton, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
All right.